All right, let's journey back in time. We're going to uncover the story of a forgotten superpower, an empire that went head-to-head with one of the greatest in history, and whose legacy, believe it or not, still shapes our world today.
So, when you think of Rome's greatest enemy, who pops into your head? Is it Hannibal, leading his elephants over the Alps? Or maybe the Goths, who famously sacked the city? Yeah, those are the usual suspects, right? They're the ones that always get the spotlight in the history books.
But what if I told you that Rome's greatest enemy, its most persistent, most powerful rival, was none of them? What if there was another empire, one that challenged Rome for centuries and often won? Get ready, because we're about to reshape how you see ancient history. Okay, let's peel back the layers of history and finally reveal the identity of this powerhouse, an adversary that's been seriously overshadowed by Rome's other, more famous fights. The answer is the Sasanian Empire of Persia. And get this, for over 400 years, this was the other superpower of the ancient world. They weren't just some annoying problem on the border for Rome. They were a true peer, a rival civilization that could match Rome blow for blow in military might, in cultural brilliance, and in sheer imperial ambition. So where in the world did this powerhouse come from? Well, it literally rose from the ashes of a previous dynasty, forged in conflict and driven by a seriously powerful vision for the future. Our story really kicks off in 224 CE. A Persian nobleman, Ardashir I, overthrows the last king of the Parthian Empire. And the Parthians had already been giving Rome headaches for centuries. But Ardashir wasn't just grabbing power, he had a much bigger vision. He proclaimed the birth of a new dynasty, the Sasanians. And when his son, the truly formidable Shapur I, took the throne in 241, well, the stage was set for a whole new era of conflict with Rome. And the Sasanian ambition was just immense. I mean, this was not about survival. These guys saw themselves as the true heirs to legendary Persian kings like Cyrus the Great. Their goal was nothing less than restoring Persia to its ancient glory, and to directly challenge Rome for total dominance of the known world. An ambition like that could only lead to one thing: conflict. A centuries-long struggle between two of the most powerful, most organized military forces the world had ever seen. A true clash of the titans. Now, to really get this conflict, you have to understand the Sasanians' ultimate weapon, the Cataphract. Just picture this: a warrior and his horse, both completely covered in steel armor. They weren't just cavalry, they were basically living, breathing tanks, designed to just crash through enemy lines like an unstoppable force. And the contrast between the two armies is just fascinating. You had the Roman legions, right? Masters of disciplined infantry, these seemingly invincible formations. But they had never really faced anything like the Cataphracts, whose whole purpose was a thunderous charge designed to shatter those very formations. It forced Rome to constantly adapt, but it always seemed like Persia was one step ahead. And the early fights sent absolute shockwaves through the Roman world. In 244, the Emperor Gordian III dies under some very mysterious circumstances during his campaign in Persia. Just 9 years later, the Sasanian king Shapur I sacks Antioch, one of the crown jewels of the Roman East. These were just devastating blows. And then, in 260 CE, something happened that no one thought was even possible. 1. That's the number of Roman emperors ever captured alive in battle. Just one. And it wasn't the Gauls or the Goths who did it, it was Emperor Valerian, captured by the Sasanian King of Kings, Shapur I. This was a humiliation on a scale Rome had never, ever experienced. But for Persia, it was destiny. But this whole thing was about way more than just battles. It was a massive strategic game, played out across a huge chessboard. They were fighting for control over the grain and wealth of Mesopotamia, for influence over buffer states like Armenia, and, this is a big one, for control of the Silk Road trade routes. This was an economic war just as much as it was a military one. And the rivalry went even deeper than land or gold. It was a war of ideas, of two rival civilizations, and each one believed it had a divine mandate to rule the world.
This mirror image rivalry is just incredible when you look at it. The Roman ruler was the Caesar, the emperor. The Persian ruler was the Shahanshah, the king of kings. Both claimed their authority came straight from the gods. Both built these massive, monumental capitals, Rome and Ctesiphon, as the center of their universe, you see? They weren't just fighting over land, they were competing for the title of the one true universal empire.
But here's the really wild part. For all the fighting,
This rivalry actually created this vibrant channel for culture and ideas to flow back and forth. You've got Persian architectural ideas that directly inspired the amazing domes of the later Byzantine Empire. Sasanian engineering, especially their siege weapons, was studied and copied by Roman generals in the East. And even on a deeper philosophical level, Zoroastrian ideas about good versus evil, a final judgment, those concepts found really profound echoes in developing Christian thought. It was a two-way street between equals.
So, after 400 years of this epic struggle, what was the end result? What is the real legacy of this incredible rivalry between two superpowers?
Well, these endless wars came at a staggering cost. Both empires were pushed to their absolute breaking points. Their treasuries were empty, they were running out of soldiers, and the constant warfare just bred political instability. And all of this mutual exhaustion, it left both of these giants completely vulnerable to new threats that they never even saw coming.
But the legacy isn't just destruction. This rivalry fundamentally reshaped the world. It helped to draw the cultural and political lines between East and West that, in many ways, still exist today. It served as a pipeline for art and science, and, ironically, by completely exhausting the ancient world, it paved the way for the medieval world to rise up from the ashes.
You know, there's a saying that I think just perfectly captures their different but equally important contributions. Rome built roads, Persia built the spirit. It really shows how each of these great civilizations left a completely different but totally profound mark on history.
And that brings us to the single most important thing to take away from all of this. History books so often frame everything in relation to Rome. But the Sasanian Empire, it wasn't just a footnote in Rome's story. It wasn't a victim. It was Rome's equal.
The story of the Sasanians really proves that history is just filled with these forgotten giants and all kinds of untold stories. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other superpowers, what other epic rivalries has history left waiting in the shadows?